everyone, and a very warm welcome to this exclusive interview with Pramod Sinha, founder and chairman at Harappa Education. As COVID 19 changes the realities of our lives, our businesses, and our jobs, it has become very clear that old skills and capabilities have to lead to the new for organizations to accelerate their transformation out of the downturn. While we don't know when the recovery will come, we do know that organizations that will invest in capabilities to capture the emerging opportunities will have the best chance for a brighter future. Thus, articulating critical skills for recovery, building the base of future digital skills, reimagining training at a scale in a distant world, and bringing on an experimental mindset is the need of the hour. It is in this direction that the People Matters L&D Conference 2020, coming to your screens from 21st to 22nd October, aims to bring the community together to help reflect and find collective answers to uncover a roadmap to build the foundation of a capability-driven business strategy for growth. And today we have with us Pramod Sinha, founder and chairman at Harappa Education, and he'll be talking about how we can reimagine learning in a distance world rather than looking at the distance as a drawback or a burden. A very warm welcome to you, Pramod, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Yasmin. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And without further ado, I'd like to begin with the first question for you, Pramod. So the pandemic has also brought back the importance of reskilling and upskilling of resources as part of the larger business transformation in the wake of the crisis. So what do you think are some of the trends around reskilling and upskilling post-COVID-19?
So Yasmin, as you rightly said, businesses were already transforming and people were already feeling the need to reskill their employees or look for new skills. At the individual level also, people interested in furthering their careers were worried about their skills and how they need to constantly upskill. I think the pandemic has created a situation where we are feeling that pressure even more, because what has happened is lots of companies have struggled through this time and lots of sectors have completely gone topsy-turvy. Hospitality, tourism, travel, as you know, right? So people in these sectors have either lost jobs or are feeling very concerned about the future of what's going to happen to them or to their sectors. Now, things may not turn out as badly as we think they could, because, you know, one always has a bit of a recency bias. Things are not going well, so you think it'll never go away. It'll always be the same, but things will improve. But at the same time, I think people are also reacting to the fact that, oh my God, these shocks can really wreak havoc on your company, on your institutions, and as well as on your career. So it's best to be prepared, regardless of whether we come out of COVID or not. And so with that in mind, I think both companies and corporations and individuals have started to refocus on the importance of learning and development and reskilling and upskilling their people. I think also because, yeah, and I think at the individual level, what is also happening is that because people have a slightly more time on their hands, even though they are at home, they are saying, listen, is there anything I can learn while I'm doing what I'm doing? Some people feel like they're working much harder, but there are a lot of other people who feel like they do have more time on their hands. And then companies are using learning and development to engage their employees, because now the employees are remote. So other than just asking them to do some work, are there things that they can do as a company that binds their employees together? And learning and development is becoming one of those things. So those are some of the trends that I see.
Absolutely agree with you. I think we've been speaking to a lot of experts who are actually saying that the learning hours clocked by employees has gone up significantly in the past few months. And the way it has accelerated digital transformation journeys, it has similarly accelerated learning journeys for people as well. So great point there. Thank you, Pramod. Thanks for sharing that. So Pramod, how can leaders lead through these unprecedented times to build a continuous learning culture? What's the role of leadership in that?
You know, you said two things, culture and leadership. Whether it is about learning or building any other aspect of culture, leaders play one very, very key role, and that is that they have to lead from the front. Culture is really about creating a kind of behavior. Somebody used to tell me culture is how people behave when you're not looking. So if you want to set a culture for learning, I think as a leader, you have to show that you are also learning, and demonstrate that not only are you preaching to the others, but you are actually doing it yourself. And then more than that, I think emphasizing the importance of the learning, the benefits of that learning that you see as a leader that will be motivating to the employee as well as to the organization, articulating those benefits and not just doing it as a lip service, but genuinely saying, listen, I want you to learn so that we can do X, Y, Z. I want you to do this because we want you to do A, B, C. I think that's what it really takes to build a learning culture. Left to themselves, it'll be, some employees will be motivated to learn, others may not be, others will say this is all not important, I'm fine at the way I am. But if you truly want to build a culture for learning, then I think the culture change has to start from the top. You have to make sure that your direct employees, your direct reports are the first ones who are actually doing the learning and development, and then of course cascading it down through the organization.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. I think leadership sets the tone and it cascades down to everybody. And if they have a learning, an inclination towards learning, I think that's what people learn from and they get inspired to do more. So
Yeah.
great point. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that, Pramath. So Pramath, how can we design our interventions to maximize education at a benefit added level? And particularly as we remain at a physical distance?
Well, in some ways, if you talk to me about that, then I will always say that, the online learning is very powerful, even though there is a distance. I come from the old world of learning, which is bricks and mortars and classrooms and teachers and physical presence. But I'm recently converted, but not at the expense of face-to-face. But there's certainly a lot to be said about the convenience and even the impact and the engagement that you can get through online learning. I can tell you that I've been really surprised. And I've been surprised on multiple counts. Number one, because it is now possible to learn online, you are able to access many more people, and many more people are able to access high quality learning, which otherwise would not have been possible. And that's the convenience aspect of it. It's not the fact that you are connecting online and so on. Of course, that's there, but it's the fact that you can do it in your own time. You don't have to travel somewhere. You don't have to carve out a few days to go for a training program. You can take some time out every day and do it. At Harappa, we find that with our courses, people are spending about half an hour every evening, just half an hour every evening. It's like reading a book, where people read a book over a few days. We see that our courses, which are about 5-6 hours, get done over a 2-week period. So you can already see how people are learning online. They are doing it at their own pace, at their own convenience, and they are making a habit out of it.
Yes.
So I think that's very interesting that is happening. I think on the benefit and the ROI, honestly, time will tell. But I think individuals are actually saying that they see ROI. And that's already evident to us from the feedback that we get from the individuals and the surveys that we do, where people are saying they're highly satisfied with the content of your courses. Or it's not just our courses, but there's so many other modes. There's live webinars and mentoring sessions and coaching sessions and facilitation and group work. I'm doing so many of these sessions. I can see that over a period of time, I myself have gotten much more comfortable in this medium. And often I get feedback saying I'm very engaging, and I'm not saying this to boast, but I'm surprising myself because I do feel more comfortable. I feel that when I'm sitting and teaching people through this medium, it feels, Yasmin, like I'm having a one-on-one conversation with them. It's not I'm teaching a class. And that interaction is a very special kind of interaction. It almost feels more intimate than being in a stand-up classroom.
True.
I also find that in a lot of the sessions that I do, unlikely people ask questions and they clarify things, and they're bold enough to ask. They can put it in the chat box. So there are many things you can do online that you can't get people to do in a classroom setting because people feel threatened by others and so on. So I think we all have to work collectively towards making sure that there are benefits and that there is value added, and not constantly keep comparing it to the other alternative.
Absolutely agree. Yes. And I think that the ease of access that this is because now people have in terms of learning from anywhere in any format that they want to learn. My bite-sized learning. There's so many different formats. I think it's just becoming easier for people to pick up skills and learn them, and keep them make themselves more relevant for the future of work. So yes, great. Thanks for sharing that, Rama. That made a lot of good sense. So how do you think we can cast this distance as an opportunity for learning rather than a drawback or a burden? Though you did speak a little bit about it, that how if there's more connection, that you feel people are more confident in talking. So what more can you tell me about that? Distance is no longer a burden; it's an opportunity now.
I think I would like to say that the first way to do it is where I ended the earlier answer. We should not see this as a substitute for all of the other learning that was happening without distance, or rather face to face. That will continue. But that was still because of the fact that it had to be face to face. It was limiting and it was limited. Nobody talks about that. We all start jumping ahead and saying, oh, online is like this and online is like that. But hey, the previous method also had its limitations. So I think the both have to coexist. I often give the example that when the textbook first arrived, people used to say, how will it ever match the learning that you can have in the classroom, sitting at the feet of your teacher and talking to them directly and sitting with your classmates? Now you're going to read what you have, physics in your own room, and go through pages and answer questions. How will you ever learn? But I learned physics that way because the teacher in school didn't do such a great job. So I used to learn from the book, and all of us have done that. So books completely changed the way people looked at the world and learned. And many people then also said, how do you know people are even reading the book? Maybe they're just keeping it on their shelves and showing it off, but they haven't actually read it. Same thing is happening with online. But you see, the big difference is that the books, when they happened, completely expanded. That same teacher now could teach people sitting in a remote city in India, where the person has never even met you. So I think this is the similar thing that is happening, that suddenly now you or I can reach out to many more people than we could reach out to in the classroom or in the coaching session that we were doing. People are watching our recordings of our sessions, and many more people are accessing. Now, not all of them will benefit it the same way if I was in the room with them and doing a session with them. But at the same time, a lot of people are becoming motivated. A lot of people are going and looking for other things to learn. And many more people are getting to learn. So I think that's what we have to focus on. That this is a different kind of learning. It's like learning from a book versus going to a classroom.
Yes.
And one shouldn't necessarily compare, because if I'm learning from a book, I'm learning because I couldn't make it to a classroom. I didn't have time to do that. I didn't have access to that faculty member. And therefore, I'm now doing the next best. Maybe it's the next best. I don't think it's the next best. It's the other best, if I can call it. It's an alternative.
Alternative, yes. Both are equally important, I think. Yes.
Yes. And I think what is also going to happen, therefore, is that in companies and as well as for individuals, uh, people are going to do multiple things throughout their lives by way of learning. Listen, I never listened to podcasts till a few months ago, but now I've become addicted to them.
Yes.
And it's a new way of learning. And I'm finding that given how busy I am, it's the best way for me to learn, because the 1 hour that I spend going for a walk in the morning is the time when I have really uninterrupted time, no emails, no WhatsApp, no phone calls. So at that time, I can really listen concentrated to something. And I find that these days now I come back from my walk and I have to start writing down some notes to myself, because that's when I'm really learning.
Exactly. That's what it's like, anywhere, anytime, any place learning. That's actually going to be the future, I think, too. And it's about finding what suits you best. If you want to learn in a classroom and you find it that more suitable to your aspirations, or you like it the online way, whichever way, I think it's about personalization, personalizing learning experiences for people as well. Yeah. Great. Thanks, Pramod. Pramod, this is the final question for you now. So as leaders reimagine workplace learning, what are some of the non-negotiables for improving the learning culture in the organization, according to you?
I think, Yasmin, the first thing is that a learning culture comes from a performance culture. Now, it may be saying the obvious, and no leader, no organization would say that they are not focused on performance. But what I mean by a performance culture is a culture that demands performance from everyone. And of course, I don't mean a harsh culture, but I mean a meritocratic culture, a culture that is looking at how people are constantly doing and how can they be enabled to do better. How can they realize their full potential? And again, not just from the angle of helping people, but also if they realize the full potential, that's when the organization progresses. So I think this culture that, listen, we are performance driven, and our performance depends on whether we are getting the best out of our people and whether our people are being enabled to give their best, to bring their best and their whole self to work, is, I think, the first and foremost non-negotiable if you are going to have the learning culture. And then to the other connect between that performance-based culture and a learning culture is, I think, the importance of feedback and coaching. I think you need to have a feedback and coaching culture for that to lead to a learning culture. Because learning then happens in the context of what the organization wants of you and what feedback and coaching you get from people and in the organization to say, hey, these are things you're really good at, but here are some things that you need to get better at. And being able to then match the learning opportunities that are offered to that person so that they can address those needs that have arisen out of their feedback or their coaching or their performance review is really at the heart of building the learning culture. So I think those are the building blocks, if I can call it that, and you can call them non-negotiables, but the focus on performance, the focus on the individual, which is why performance is a result of which the performance is a result, and on the individual focusing on feedback and coaching through which you at least understand what kind of learning this person needs so that they can contribute. Then how you organize the learning and what kind of courses you provide. And, as you said earlier, there are so many possibilities that can be configured to the individual and to the organization.
True. Yes, and I think meeting organization needs and an individual's needs and coming to a common consensus of learning. I think that's where the perfect combination happens, and that's where the exact learning culture comes into place, what I feel too. So thank you so
Yes.
much. And the fact that you shared about having a performance culture, having a meritocratic culture where best ideas and best people win. I think that leads to an the automatic creation of a learning culture because everybody wants to be at their best. So
I
great.
think too many organizations go down the slippery slope of saying, hey, learn because it's good for you. It's like we saying eat healthy or exercise every day, and we all know how tough that is to do, because of course there are many things that are good for you, but you don't feel, not everybody feels motivated, and in fact sometimes you feel demotivated when people keep telling you do this, do this, do this. So I think that is also a deterrent. In fact, what you want to do is not to do that. You do want to tie it to some aspect of company or organizational performance and your individual contribution. I think that then motivates people to adopt the learning that is being offered.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Pramod. On that note, I think those were some great insights on what kind of learning culture is COVID-19 bringing to the fore, and how can organizations become front runners in these times by putting the focus on reskilling, upskilling, and also putting the focus on creating a learning culture that's based on performance and meritocracy. So thank you for those thoughts, Pramod. It was wonderful talking to you, and hope to hear more from you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Asmin.
Thank you.
Very
Thank
nice
you
to
so
meet
much. Take care.
you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.